Welcome to Just Asia, HRC TV's weekly human rights program. These are the headlines. India's top court rules sex with wife below 18 is rape. New satellite images reveal 288 Rohingya villages burned since August. Bangladesh Chief Justice forced to leave country amidst judicial independence struggle. High Court judge in Indonesia arrested for corruption. Nepal elected to UN Human Rights Council. 4 urgent appeals from Sri Lanka, Pakistan and India. Welcome to HRC TV's Just Asia. I'm Annie Lin. This week, Just Asia begins with India, where the Supreme Court ruled on October 11th that sex with a wife younger than 18 is rape. The Apex Court read down Exception 2 of Section 375 of the Indian Penal Code, which stated, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his own wife, the wife not being under 15 years of age, is not rape. The provision now reads, sexual intercourse or sexual acts by a man with his own wife, the wife not being 18 years, is rape. This is a much-needed legal development for child rights and will help in the fight to end child marriage in the country. Sadly, the fight against marital rape for adult women continues. It's hoped that marital rape will soon become criminal, irrespective of age. Newly released satellite images revealed that at least 66 villages were burned in Burma's Rakhine state after September 5th, when security operations supposedly ended. The Burmese military was responding to attacks by the Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army on August 25th with a campaign of violence and ethnic cleansing. As a result, more than 530,000 Rohingya were forced to flee across the border to Bangladesh. According to Human Rights Watch, 288 Rohingya villages were partially or totally destroyed by fire since August 25. Analysis of the satellite imagery indicates that the burnings focused on Rohingya villages. In multiple areas, destroyed Rohingya villages sat adjacent to intact ethnic Rakhine villages. The most damage occurred in Mangdao Township, accounting for approximately 90% of the area where destruction happened between August 25 and September 25. Approximately 62% of all villages in the township were either partially or completely destroyed, and southern areas of the township were particularly hard hit, with approximately 90% of the villages devastated. Although the Burmese government has repeatedly said that ARSA insurgents and local Rohingya communities were responsible for setting the fires that wiped out the villages, it has offered no evidence to support such claims. Meanwhile, interviews with refugees and information by journalists and rights groups have all indicated that the Burmese military was responsible for the destruction. Next, Bangladesh Supreme Court Chief Justice was forced to take a month's leave and go off to Australia, so the Prime Minister Hasina's government could appoint a new Chief Justice and reverse the judgment nullifying the 16th Constitutional Amendment. The amendment, known as 16A, gives the Parliament power to sack a higher court judge with a 2/3 majority. It was passed in Parliament in September 2014, when the main opposition party had no representation in Parliament. After 9 Supreme Court lawyers appealed to the High Court to nullify 16A on the grounds that it shackles the judiciary and makes a mockery of the separation of powers principle, it was finally annulled in May 2016. The government appealed against this at the Supreme Court, which is headed by Chief Justice Sinha, and unanimously rejected the appeal on 3 July 2017. While the verdict was a blow, Chief Justice Sinha's remarks suggested that he could further undermine Sheikh Hasina's power if left to its devices. Sinha warned the government, albeit indirectly, that the judiciary could send the Prime Minister home as occurred in Pakistan. He also questioned the competence of parliamentarians to sit in judgment over judges. These and other remarks caused Sheikh Hasina to insist that Justice Sinha leave the country for a while. It is unsure whether he will be allowed to return to Bangladesh or not. Corruption and bribery with Indonesia's judiciary is also in the spotlight again, with the latest arrest of Chief Justice Sudiwardono of Manado High Court, North Sulawesi Province, on 7 October 2017. He was arrested by Indonesia's corruption watchdog, the KPK, for allegedly accepting bribes by Golkar Party member Aditya Moha to reduce the sentence of a defendant. The KPK arrested Mr. Aditya Moha as well, a parliament member and son of the defendant. Since Justice Hatta Ali became chairman of the Supreme Court in March 2012, a total of 25 judges and legal personnel have been found to be involved in corruption cases. Indonesia's weak external oversight of judges and judicial staff is the key reason for the widespread corruption within the judiciary. The country's Independent Judicial Commission has weak powers and no authority to investigate and punish judges who breach the law. The Commission can merely make recommendations to the Supreme Court, most of which are ignored. There are strong allegations that Justice Hatta Ali is reluctant to seriously reform the judiciary. For this reason, many public figures, including Supreme Court Judge Gayus Lumbun, are demanding that Justice Ali resign as the chairman of the Supreme Court. Moving to Nepal, the country was elected to the United Nations Human Rights Council for the first time on 16 October 2017. Nepal's term will begin on 1 January 2018 and end on 31 December 2020. This is an exceptional moment for Nepal, which underwent a decade of armed conflict from 1996 to 2006. Although transitional justice mechanisms have been established, conflict victims were not included in the process and justice has been diluted. The transitional justice process has sought to largely whitewash the human rights violations committed during the conflict period. Being elected to the Human Rights Council is an excellent opportunity for Nepal to go through a self-evaluation and establish itself as a human rights-friendly country, committed towards the promotion and protection of human rights. Most importantly, Nepal must work on prosecuting perpetrators and providing justice to victims and families. Finally, the Urgent Appeals Weekly features 4 cases from Sri Lanka, Pakistan and India. In Sri Lanka, 65-year-old Mr. D.B. Premasiri was illegally arrested and severely tortured at his house in front of his relatives and neighbors. Later, he was handcuffed and pushed against a parapet wall, causing him to fall over. He was brought to the National Hospital of Sri Lanka by relatives and pronounced dead on admission. No investigation has yet been carried out by police. Also in Sri Lanka, student activist Ryan Jayalat suffered a failed abduction attempt on 20 July 2017. Ryan's fellow activists managed to prevent the abduction, and the police later accepted that the abductors were officers of the Colombo Criminal Division but gave no explanation for their illegal behavior. In Pakistan, a hate speech against the Ahmadi Muslims was delivered by a member of the ruling political party. As a result, 3 Ahmadis were convicted of blasphemy. Lastly, in West Bengal, India, a daily wage laborer died in police custody while the police failed to follow due process. That is all for this episode of Just Asia. For more on these and other issues, please visit www.humanrights.asia or www.alrc.asia/justasia. Thank you for watching and see you next week.